rise in support of the candidacy of Gina McCarthy to be our next EPA administrator. I want to thank Senator Barrasso because he made it very clear what this whole discussion is about. I think we have heard from previous speakers about the qualifications of Gina McCarthy, but really this is not a debate about Gina McCarthy. Senator Barrasso made it very clear what the debate is about. And it is a debate about global warming and whether or not we are going to listen to the leading scientists of this country who are telling us that global warming is the most serious planetary crisis that we and the global community face, and whether we are going to address that crisis in a serious manner. And in essence, what Senator Barrasso has just said is no. He does not want the EPA to do that. He does not want the EPA to listen to science. What he wants is us to continue doing as little as possible as we see extreme weather disturbances, drought, floods, and heat waves all over the world take place. So let me go on record as saying I want the EPA to be vigorous in protecting our children and future generations from the horrendous crisis that we face from global warming. According to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, 2012 was the warmest year ever recorded for the continental United States, and over 24,000 new record highs were set in the U.S. alone. It was the hottest year in recorded history in New York, Washington, D.C., Louisville, Kentucky, even my home city of Burlington, Vermont, and other cities across the country. Last year's drought, affecting 2/3 of the United States, was the worst in half a century, contributing to extraordinary wildfires, burning more than 9 million acres of land, reported the National Interagency Fire Center. Heat waves and droughts are not limited to the U.S. Australia, for instance, just experienced a 4-month heat wave with severe wildfires, record-setting temperatures and torrential rains and flooding, causing $2.4 billion in damages, according to the New York Times. We also know that global warming is causing heat waves and drought, but it is also resulting in extreme weather disturbances of all kinds. NOAA's Climate Extreme Index, which tracks extreme temperatures, drought, precipitation, and tropical storms, tell us that 2012 set yet another distressing record, the most extreme climate conditions recorded. Ronald Prinn, the director of MIT's Center for Global Change Science, concluded, and this is an important point, what we have heard recently from scientists is that they tell us that their earlier projections regarding global warming were wrong, that in fact they underestimated the problem and that the conditions that they were worried about will likely be worse than what they had previously thought. And Ronald Prim, the director of MIT's Center for Global Change Science, said, and I quote, "There is significantly more risk than we previously estimated, which increases the urgency for significant policy action." Let me just conclude, and I'm glad that my colleague Senator Inhofe is here, because Jim Inhofe and I are good friends, although we have rather strong disagreements on the issue of global warming. And what Senator Inhofe has written and talked about is his belief that global warming is one of the major hoaxes ever perpetrated on the American people, that it's a hoax pushed by people like Al Gore, the United Nations, and the Hollywood elite. I think that is a fair quote from Senator Inhofe. Is that roughly right, Senator Inhofe?
Yes, I'd add to that list MoveOn.org, George Soros, Michael Moore, and a few others.
All right, there we go. So that is the issue. That is exactly what the issue. Do we agree with Senator Inhofe that global warming is a hoax and that we do not want the federal government, the EPA, the Department of Energy to address that issue because it is a quote-unquote hoax, according to Senator Inhofe and others? Or do we believe and agree with the overwhelming majority of scientists who tell us that global warming is the most serious planetary crisis that we face, and that we must act boldly and aggressively to protect the future of this planet? That is what the issue is, and that is why I'm supporting Gina McCarthy.